Folks, a major incident has unfolded in Minneapolis, Minnesota today, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Originally, I had other things on my agenda, and we're still going to talk about them. But I feel like uh, this incident in Minneapolis takes some precedence because it has some major implications that go well beyond what transpired. What transpired is a 37-year-old woman was shot and killed by an ICE agent while she was doing her thing and basically helping to save people from ICE. Um, the Department of Homeland Security has called this a domestic terror incident, although uh, video will indicate otherwise. And we will get into that in a few. The video, the video is very, very clear, and people have actually slowed it down uh, to where you can see that the shooter is by no means in any danger of being struck by this vehicle. The reason why this has major implications that go beyond this incident in Minneapolis, Minnesota, is because there are things happening beyond this. Donald Trump is trying to lean into a might makes right philosophy, and it's not just here domestically, but it also goes to Venezuela and to Greenland and Cuba and other places you've heard mentioned in the past week. Mayor Jacob Frey, I think, spoke for all of us when he had a press conference earlier today, and his message to ICE was get the F out of Minneapolis. At least I'm sure that's how I feel. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you out there who feel exactly the same way. They are not making anyone's lives safer. They are grabbing women. They are grabbing children. They're grabbing old men, old women. They're grabbing people who have raised 3 U.S. Marines. They're grabbing United States citizens. The person they shot today, United States citizen, Renee Nicole Good. So from the streets of South Minneapolis to the oil fields of Venezuela, this is story time. And I hope you're ready to get into it because I am. Let's go. Story time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Happy Wednesday, folks. And also, I think Happy New Year. This might be the first time I've seen you guys since last Wednesday, which was New Year's Eve. And I don't know if this feels like much of a happy New Year to you, but I feel like any day you wake up, it's happy, unless you're waking up in prison. And even still, well, no, if you're waking up in prison, that's not happy. There's some people who should be in prison right about now, and that includes that guy who murdered that woman today. But before we get into the grimy murder thing, let me just say hello to some of my peeps here. I see Joanne Kennedy right up there at the top. Valerie G is here. The Trump Reaper. Let's see. Monique Lee is here. Tina Bradford. Excuse me. Queen of the South. Good to see you again. Jackie Blue from CA, or that's Canada, says she absolutely agrees. Welcome, my friend. You are the first Twitter comment up there. Sharon Landry is here. Treyanne. Let's see. I'm skipping past the rude comments, of which there are a few. Hi guys, I told your loved ones. Have you told your loved ones that you love them? I think you all probably should. That's Eddie G. Hey, our good friend Eddie G. Welcome back. That is great advice. Thank you for sharing that with us. Susan Sandals, who reposted the stream. This is an interesting comment here from Mimi. Says a murder by ICE, orchestrated chaos. That's the key right there. That comment right there, orchestrated chaos, all to distract and divide. What, did you look at my agenda for today? Let's see. Oh, here we have nice Mikey says she didn't stop when ordered and tried to run down an agent. You know, that's bull. That's bogus. That's BS. Look at the video. We've all looked at the video several times, many times. The bullet hole. Oh, he's a ballistics expert. The bullet hole in the windshield is in directly front, meaning the agent was in front of her vehicle. Actually, no, the bullet hole is on the side. Anyway, let's see. Oh, here we go. Jackie says, "Shut up, Mikey." Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right on into today's main story. Mayor Frey to ICE, get the Fahizi out. Originally, as I said, my game plan for today was to cover the invasion. Let's call it the bombing for now, the bombing of Venezuela, because technically we don't have any boots on the ground yet. And yet is the key word here. I'll get into that in a minute. Well, I'll just tell you now. Donald Trump says we, the United States, are going to run Venezuela, which is absurd for a few reasons. One of which is we don't have anybody on the ground. So how are you going to run a country without putting boots on the ground? And if you do that, how do you do so safely? How do you do that without expanding into a full-blown, what's the word? Yeah, war. How do you do that? And the other story I have today is my Substack addressed the notion that our elected officials might not be quite ready, might not have enough of an imagination to foresee some of the crazy, some of the devious, some of the destructive plans that Donald Trump has in his bag. And that might be a problem. If this is your first time here, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. It's right there in the right-hand corner of your screen. Oh, and by the way, in case you hadn't noticed, I have a new sign now. Wifey got this for me for Christmas. It says Brooklyn Dad Defiant. It's neon, and I can make it brighter. I had to make it dimmer because too bright, and then you lose the color. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, my friends. I love it so much. And let's go ahead and jump on into the content. So last week, we were discussing Minnesota, and specifically, we were discussing Minnesota because a so-called independent journalist by the name of Nick Shirley went there with his camera and some guy, I think that might have been his dad, and pretended to be doing a journalism. He was not doing a journalism. He was doing an instigation propaganda thing. And because all he did was make it appear as though people were not trying to answer questions. But who the hell are you? You didn't have a press pass. You didn't have a badge. So why is anybody supposed to answer your questions. You're walking in there with cameras where children are supposed to be. Why are they entitled to show you the children that are in their care? It's ridiculous. Anyway, Minnesota is steadily in the news. And going back a little ways, there was a heinous assassination of Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark, and Senator John Hoffman. And Donald Trump, of course, posted a conspiracy theory asking, did Tim Waltz really have Melissa Hortman assassinated? Which is insane. The children of Melissa Hortman have asked that that be taken down. Of course, he's not taking it down. And in fact, he commands such a cult following that members of Congress are terrified to answer the question if they feel that Donald Trump's post is wrong. They won't even answer that question. And then, of course, Donald Trump has an ongoing feud with Ilhan Omar, who is Somalian, but she is also a resident. She is a citizen of the United States, and he repeatedly refers to her and other Somalians as garbage. So he has done as much as anybody to keep Minnesota in the news. But what else has happened in Minnesota that is newsworthy? Well, there were the George Floyd protests in Minnesota. And yes, I can hear you. I can hear you Trump trolls growling right now. Oh, you said it was mostly peaceful, but there were fires. Yeah, there were fires. Sure. We also know for a fact that there were some outside instigators who started many of those fires. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. The fact remains that throughout the nation, the majority of the protests were peaceful. If you choose to focus on this one violent, fiery protest and say, oh, they were all violent, then you're an idiot, because there is documented evidence, hundreds, thousands of different protests where people sat quietly and they sang songs and they passed letters to each other and they shared stories and that sort of thing. There are plenty of incidents where people sat and kneeled with police officers, and not to send the message that not every officer is a murderous asshole. There was a lot of that. But anyway, I digress. Today, there were protests in Minneapolis, Minnesota, most of which were peaceful, most of which are still peaceful, despite the fact that Kristi Noem has already put her stamp on this incident and declared that it was an act of domestic terrorism. Now, nobody should take Botox-faced cosplay Kristi seriously, because she is nothing more than a clown. I remember what happened the last time he was confronted with the United States Senator Alex Padilla at her press conference, where she had him tackled and cuffed and detained because he dared to ask a question in his own state, in the building where he has an office. So that's the woman who's saying that this was an act of domestic terror. Don't take this woman seriously. Don't take anybody seriously who willingly posts these random ads in which she participated in a dental ad that wasn't even filmed in her own state. What is it, South Dakota or North Dakota? A Dakota. She flew down to Texas on using state funds to have this video filmed. And now she's facing a lawsuit over that video. Homeland Security posted an announcement saying today ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer, fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training, the training is suspect, and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. The alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. The ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make full recoveries. That whole statement is bullshit. All of it. The ICE officers who were hurt. Really, what did your finger get caught on your trigger? How did you get hurt? Because she didn't hurt anybody. Donald Trump jumped into the action and posted that it is hard to believe that he is alive, the shooter, but is now recovering in the hospital. There's a picture of him not in the hospital, walking on his own, under his own power. He's perfectly safe, folks. So I am not going to show the video because it does show a violent murder. It's like a snuff film. And I've already watched it on TV and on Twitter dozens of times. If you want to see that video, check it out on Twitter or whatever. I can't take risks with YouTube jacking my video because I'm showing it. So here's a still of the first ICE agent grabbing her handle, the handle to her door. As he walked up to her car, there was maybe 3 seconds of conversation, literally 3 seconds before he grabs her door. So it's not like this was a thing that unfolded over 5 minutes or 10 minutes. This unfolded in seconds. And not even 30 seconds. If you watch the video, he walks up to the door. She is immediately deciding that I need to get away from here. 5-10 seconds, she's out of there. Or she's attempting to get out of there. His partner, as you can see, as he's reaching for the door handle, he is already reaching for his gun. Okay, so this is a 37-year-old woman in her car, alone. Both of these guys are not observing protocol. How do I know this? Because I watched a bunch of people who are experts talk about it. I myself am not a law enforcement expert, but I do pay attention. That guy who's standing directly in front of the vehicle, like off to the side, he is putting himself in a danger zone. But as I said, you can see he is off to the side of the vehicle. And now, if you look on the picture on the left, you can see the yellow circle. Circle is identifying his gun. His gun is already drawn and pointed at the car. She's not even moving yet, but her tire is turned past the guy in front of the car. And if you look inside the yellow square, you can see that identifies the turn of the turn of the wheel, indicating that she's trying to get away. The picture on the right, you can see where the guy's legs are. He is well out of the way. He is clear. He is free and clear. If you look at the front of the car in that picture on the right, you can see the puff of smoke. That is from the gunshot. That is from the gunshot. So, you know, to me, it's easy to see. And this brother here, he was an eyewitness, and I do have his video handy. I'm going to share that with you now. Da, 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 da. Here we go.
Yeah, that's like a culture in ICE that's like toxicity. I'm not for sure. I don't want to, just go off the hinge with it, but this is
I know when you're trying to provoke someone, or you just just trying to be doing too much, just doing too much.
Mr. Bentley, do you mind breaking down what exactly you saw this morning?
Basically, ladies trying to warn everyone ICE is in is in the neighborhood. Just letting them know, hey, and telling ICE, hey, you're destroying families, whatnot. Stop doing this. Hey, get out of here. Stop that. She reversed so traffic can go by. Pickup truck, gray pickup truck. Officer ICE got out and was telling her, hey, well, didn't tell her anything, really, just telling her, with, I'm going to open up your door and I'm going to get you out. And that's when the shooting happened, and the car took off, and then it sped off and crashed right into the cars.
You talked about the agent that was stepped in front of the car.
The way he was in the clear.
He was in the clear.
There was another one at the front part of the car on the driver's side, and there's one right there by the door that's opening, trying to get in the door. Then you have one that's in front of the car that was already coming from the side, and he was just getting clear because he already see that, hey, this person can take off, but maybe I'll try to intimidate you with my gun. But I don't think the lady was looking that way towards the front because she's worried about this.
He's trying to get in her door, and
she's 65 years old. She's probably scared. She's trying to help out and scared at the same time.
Okay, so she wasn't 65 years old. I believe she was 37. But let's see, where is this here? But yeah, this brother had a clear view of what had transpired and was lucky enough to share it with us. Now, as I was playing this video for you, I'm actually watching the video replay again, and I was wrong. It didn't take the whole incident from the time the guy reached. He had one hand on her door handle and the other hand reaching into her car. That whole thing unfolded no more than 10 seconds from the time he walked up to her car to the time she struck another vehicle because she was already dead. That whole thing, 10 seconds. Unreal. These guys are trained so poorly. The job is supposed to involve some de-escalation. This went from 0 to 60 in 1 second. We got Crenny Lavitz here sharing a point of view. The ICE agent had no right to try to open her door. But you know what, Crenny? I've seen that 100 times from 100 different ICE videos. Not only do they do that, they lead with smashing your window in with the baton. That is what they do. Governor Walz has made an announcement saying that the National Guard, the Minnesota National Guard, is ready to act. And I bring that up because it is very important for folks. If you are going to go and protest in Minnesota, by all means, please do so. Sometimes protest is therapeutic. Instead of having all those feelings bottled up inside, you let them out and you share with the community. The community there is mourning. Some of them are angry. And that's understandable, but we cannot let this devolve, unfold into destruction and mayhem. We can't let that happen. Why? Part of the reason is because that's what the right wing wants to happen. They want that to happen. Then they have a counter for anytime you bring up January 6th. Yeah, well, what about the BLM riots? Those two totally different things. But the other reason, and this is more serious, is that Donald Trump wants desperately to occupy United States cities with the military. He has frequently brought up the fact that he hasn't used the Insurrection Act, but that he can do so if he chooses. He has the right, he says. Don't give him that reason. Don't. We can see this happening. We can see it unfolding before anything even happens. So please keep it peaceful. And before I move on out of Minnesota, let me briefly talk about Nick Shirley. Now, I don't want to spend more than a couple of minutes on this guy. Last week, I shared with you a video in which he was completely humiliated and outclassed by somebody who has more than a double-digit IQ. And this guy really is not a serious person. The minute you ask him a direct question and ask for an answer in return, his whole story collapses and crumbles. So what I'm going to share with you now is a tweet from Call to Activism in which my friend Joe says, "Holy hell," the YouTuber journalist who became famous for Minnesota daycare centers looks like a deer in the headlights as soon as he is asked the most basic journalistic question. This is embarrassing. So yeah, let's go ahead and cue this up. Here we go.
I actually never even gave my opinions on the internet. However, my hand was forced to start giving my opinions because they came after me. They came after my family. They doxed my entire family.
How did they come after you? Be specific.
Well, they tried to come after me. They tried to debunk all my whole entire story. They then
Who's they?
all the news,
Would you just get more
CNN.
specific? CNN. Who within CNN?
CBS.
Who's the reporter?
I don't even know her name because she's irrelevant. Nobody knows who she is. I actually never even gave my opinions on the internet. However,
I don't see how this clown was given even an iota of legitimacy. You know, here's what happened, though. You know, this whole thing was astroturfed by Elon Musk, by J.D. Vance, by Ted Cruz, by a lot of the bigger, heavier accounts on Twitter, and they help, and on the other social medias, and they helped to disseminate his bullshit, and they were like, bravo, bravo. And of course the rest of the sheep are like, oh yeah, Mario, bravo. Let's expose those Africans. That's really what it is, right? They don't give a shit about fraud, right? If they gave a shit about fraud, they would raise an eyebrow about George Santos being pardoned for fraud, or like a dozen other white people who were pardoned for fraud. And for like serious fraud against Medicare and fraud against children and cancer kids and stuff like that. These people were pardoned like wholesale by Trump. All for fraud. And not a peep out of the peanut gallery. But now turn the camera on and look, if these Somalians that were identified for being, and they were identified, this whole thing has been worked on since the Biden administration. There's already like 80 people who have been indicted, and I think 50 of them were convicted thanks to the Biden administration. They already got that ball rolling. So this whole thing being treated as some kind of expose, come on, man. Nick Shirley was contacted by a woman who's running for some office in Minnesota, and she gave him a tip and sent him on his merry way, and the rest is history. Moving on. Oh, yeah, here's some more fraudsters here. Okay, so let's talk about what happened this weekend. This was shocking. It was shocking to me because, you know, it's like a brand new year. Like, you don't really expect this to happen. And now that I say shocking, I shouldn't say that I'm shocked by it, because I kind of actually was already calling it out. It was just so out of the blue, but those of you who are around my age, I'm 57, going to be 58 this year. I've lived through the first Gulf War, and I've lived through obviously Afghanistan, and then Iraq War. Actually, I lived through some other things too, like Grenada. Grenada was some random war that happened in the 80s when I was a teenager. And even when I was younger, when I was just a baby, I guess I was technically alive. I just wasn't conscious of the Vietnam War. So there was a lot of wars that were originally treated as as a police operation. That's what the Vietnam War was originally referred to as. It wasn't called a war. Obviously, it unfolded and became a war. Nicaragua, thank you, Pash Cattell. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is the same guy, but there's a person who also was Crenny Lavitz. You guys are funny with the account names. And Pash Cattell, this is funny. But yes, thank you. Nicaragua also. All these like random wars that just unfolded, especially when Donald Trump was running as the No New Wars president. I have proof. I have receipts. Hang on. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys can't hear my stomach growling. This brother is hungry.
Have prosperity, and I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. No more wars, no more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. No more wars. No.
So he's a candidate of peace, but he has already bombed like 8 different countries. I don't know how you with the straight face look at us and call that peace. That's not peace. So anyway, it was like Friday night, and then we're starting to get video of missiles or bombs being dropped in the middle of the night. I think it was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, well, that's kind of messed up because, there's kids sleeping and families asleep that don't even know what the hell is going on. And okay, so they're saying it's not a war, but you're dropping bombs on a sovereign nation. That's weird to me. The other weird thing is that there didn't seem to be any type of resistance put up. Oh my goodness. Gen Z. Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind donation. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. There was little to no resistance offered by Venezuela. I find that strange, don't you? I mean, as I said earlier, they are a sovereign nation. So you would assume they have people who have like national pride, right? People who, I don't care if it's, United States or some island nobody ever heard of. If somebody comes into your house and starts knocking shit over, I would think you have a right to say something about it, to put up some type of resistance, and nothing. But we did hear that over 100 people were killed. And they were killed in the apprehension of Nicolas Maduro, the terrible dictator of Venezuela, who lost. He shouldn't even be in power. So we went in and grabbed him. We left the rest of his regime intact, right? So we've just taken him out. So that's good, I suppose, right? You know, there's a lot of people who are saying that that the Venezuelan people are, they're cheering this. Everyone, every last Venezuelan citizen is cheering this development. Hooray! Yeah, sure. Because guess what? We Democrats, believe it or not, MAGA, we don't like dictators. And we have said so many, many, many times, right? We're not pissed that this guy, this dictator, was removed from power because, frankly, there was another jackass who tried to stay in office also. But the problem we have first is that you guys are lying about this, right? Let me play this video because this is very interesting.
One of these videos was posted on July 30th, 2024, as people protested Maduro declaring himself president. The other one was posted yesterday by Donald Trump, claiming the people of Venezuela are celebrating the removal of Maduro. This is the president who constantly tells you that everyone else is lying to you and he's the only one you can believe. There's a reason he tells you that. So when he gives you obvious lies that can be easily fact-checked, you don't bother to do it. You just listen to whatever he says and do whatever he tells you to do.
Dude, he blatantly posted a video that can easily be fact-checked. Guys, that's one reason why we are sick and tired of Donald Trump. Call it TDS or whatever. We're tired of being lied to our faces, like with stupid lies, like if you were walking your dog down the street and I just hauled off and with every bit of strength I could muster, I kicked your dog. And then you were like, hey, what the hell is wrong with you? Why'd you kick my dog? And I was like, no, I didn't kick your dog. No, your dog jumped onto my leg. That's what happened. You'd be mad. You'd be mad if I continued to do shit like that to you every day, all day long, and it affected your sanity. You'd be pissed. So in any case, MAGA is out in full of force saying, here's a tweet from Joe Biden saying Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. As president, I will stand with the Venezuelan people and for democracy, right? And now Eric the Gray, some rando on Twitter, says that didn't age well. And now everyone sees it's Democrats who love and support dictators and desire to emulate them. What? Are you stupid? What the hell is wrong with these people? Everybody's saying Democrats love dictators. So they're creating a false equivalence, right? They're saying that because we are raising a fuss about invading another country, don't obscure that, okay? This guy said he was going to be a no new wars president, and what does he do? He goes and drops bombs on a country and then says we're going to run it. He says we're going to run that country. We can't even, he can't even run this country. He's got food lines. He's got rising unemployment. He's got prices going up. He's got healthcare crisis about to explode in his face. That guy who couldn't even run a casino. He ran he ran multiple casinos into the ground. Bankrupt casinos. And he wants to run not one, but two countries? He doesn't even know the first thing about running two countries. General Milley famously said that we don't take an oath to a king or a queen. or to a tyrant or a dictator, and we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. Now, MAGA, we know you've been paying attention. We know that that you've been in our replies when we post and repost this video from General Milley, who you guys hate, who Donald Trump wanted to have executed because he dared to call Mr. I'm not leaving office, the election was a fraud, Trump, because he heard his little fifis. We don't like dictators at all. MAGA loves dictators. And how do I know MAGA loves dictators? Because Trump loves Putin. He loves Kim Jong-un. He loves President Xi. He loves Viktor Orban. You find a dictator that he doesn't love. That's hard as hell. He loves him some dictators. So if Donald Trump loves them, MAGA loves them, because that's how it works, guys, like it or not. You guys cannot think for yourselves. Donald Trump thinks for you and tells you what you like and what you don't like. First, he didn't like new wars. Now, you like new wars. He's grabbing oil tankers. It's all about the oil. He's told us. He already told us as much. He's been complaining for years about the United States not keeping the oil. The other day, he announced not only is he going to take, I think, 50 million barrels of oil from Venezuela, but he says he's going to keep the money and he's going to determine how that money is spent. Now, you don't have to be a civics expert to know that that is unconstitutional, because the House of Representatives are the ones with the power of the purse, not the president. The president does not determine how funds are spent. Congress does. So he's saying the United States is going to run Venezuela, right? You got a plate full of food in front of you, full plate full of food. You can barely finish the food that's in front of you. And now you're looking across the table at somebody else with a full plate of food and you want to eat their food too? That's stupid. You got no troops in the country. You have no infrastructure there, no people you can count on aside from the corrupt people that are already there who were part of Maduro's regime. Those are the only people there. So you took one guy out of the equation. You took Maduro. Congratulations, right? Didn't even look like there was an attempt to defend him. It looked like he was sold out. Frankly, if you ask me, that was not like a surprise thing. The people that were directly under Maduro, they knew. Totally knew, because nobody bothered to get him to safety. No, it was just, that's insane. I can't even imagine if people came to the United States, dropped bombs on one of our cities, wreaked havoc in the middle of the night, and then took our leader. Now, you might see some celebration in the street. I'm not going to lie. If they grab Trump. But it's unfathomable, because everybody knows Donald Trump, as soon as he heard boo, would have run into one of the many bunkers in the White House. We know that. He doesn't even mess around with protesters. There's protests, put up some fences, and I'm going into the bunker. Bunker, bitch. But this whole thing with oil, I knew it. I 100% knew that the infatuation with Venezuela had nothing to do with drugs and had everything to do with oil. Here's my post from November 29th, I said, if Trump is so concerned about drug trafficking that he'll start a war with Venezuela, why is he pardoning the former Honduran president who was convicted of drug trafficking? 400 tons of cocaine. This math ain't mathing. This is all about oil. Or my tweet from December 6th. Just to be clear, we all know that Trump's military hostility towards Venezuela has everything to do with their oil and very little to do with drugs, right? And why was I saying that? Because they had this weird thing happening where supposedly they are blowing up drug boats in the ocean. So some drug dealer in Venezuela is sending out one solitary small ass boat into the ocean with, I don't know, call it like 1,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds of drugs, right? Knowing that like 15 boats have already been destroyed over the past several months, and he's continuing to send, like, what drug dealer do you know who's willingly just letting their product be destroyed? Huh? Does that make any sense whatsoever? Think about it. If you were walking down Main Street every day, and every day you got mugged by somebody every day for a month straight, wouldn't you stop walking down Main Street? Wouldn't you find another street to walk down? Wouldn't you do something else? This makes no sense. You don't have to be a rocket science to figure out something screwy is going on here. Now, I don't know what it is. In my mind, it sounds crazy, but in my mind, I don't even think they were bombing any ships at all. I think they created some kind of very realistic looking AI of a boat being destroyed, of boats, plural, being destroyed. And they're using that as a pretext for war or for invasion or for taking oil. You name it, whatever the hell this whole thing is. Going back, he's had his eye on Venezuela for a very long time, going back to at least April of 2024, I think, maybe further. The truth about Tren de Aragua, the gang at the center of Trump's immigration crackdown, we started hearing about. First of all, I didn't know anything about Tren de Aragua or this Venezuelan gang until Trump started making noise about it. And then there was this rumor in Denver that there was a building complex that was overrun by this Venezuelan gang. And even its Republican mayor said that's bullshit. It's not happening. But there became this steady drumbeat of Venezuela bad, Venezuela bad. Like I'd never heard before. It used to be Iraq bad or Iran bad, these different places here. When I was younger, it was USSR bad, Now, what's the whole big picture? Stay with me here. Back in the day, Donald Trump, when he was in New York City, was mercilessly ridiculed. He was mocked by the real wealthy people in New York City. Excuse me. They thought he was crass. They thought he was a con man. They thought he was a phony. And I had to look this up because I couldn't find articles available. Yes, it has been widely reported that many wealthy, established New Yorkers and members of the city's elite have historically mocked or looked down on Donald Trump, viewing him as a low-class joke and a con man who exaggerated his wealth and status. We already know he exaggerated his wealth because That's a thing he does. He admitted this publicly. He said, sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm worth this. And sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm worth that. Whatever, whatever benefits his tax lawyers or accountants or whatever. Reasons for the mockery: perceived lack of class. Despite his wealth, Trump was often not fully accepted into New York's old money, high society circles. His flamboyant style, self-promotional tactics, and tabloid presence were often seen as ostentatious and tacky by the more reserved elite. And then his business practices. His reputation was frequently marred by reports of stiffing contractors and using aggressive legal tactics to avoid full payment, leading many in the local business community to view him negatively. So we all know that Donald Trump has this vengeance streak in him. He's petty as hell. And if he feels he's been slighted, he's going to get you back. And he will hold on to this gripe, this grudge forever. So he's got a chip on his shoulder about not being taken seriously and not being accepted by the elite. You know, that's why he slapped his name on the Kennedy Center, because he wants to get back at those people who wouldn't accept him into their circles. And now he's just gonna grab the circle himself. Why do I bring all this up? Because Donald Trump is trying desperately to enrich himself so he can look down on those same people who mocked and ridiculed him in the elite circles. How much is Vladimir Putin worth? The estimates range between $70 billion and $200 billion. Why do you guys think Donald Trump is so subservient to Putin? He will not say one mean thing about him. And Putin is a dictator. He is a dictator, right? You guys are saying, oh, Democrats, you guys love dictators. We hate dictators. We hate dictators. And Vladimir Putin is like the main one. And that's Donald Trump's biggest man crush. But mainly because Putin is filthy rich. And Trump wants to be rich like that. And how does he get there? Venezuela. Now he's finally stumbled onto the way that he can amass wealth, and he can lean on this thing called the Monroe Doctrine, but what he's referring to as the Don-roe Doctrine. So the Monroe Doctrine was named after James Madison, who basically told Europe, this is our side of the pond. You guys do what you do over there. We're going to do what we do over here. Don't mess with us, because this is our hemisphere. Now you're starting to hear people like Steve Miller and all these other people say, this is our hemisphere. We have the right to do whatever we want. And if something is happening in our backyard, then we have the right to look in on it and determine what we're going to do with it. So Donald Trump has found an oil-rich country that he can plunder. And because almost nobody is offering any resistance against him, he feels entitled to it. Literally nobody. And even, I would say, even the international community is kind of like scratching their heads and don't know how to deal with this dude because, you know, he's defying all norms, you know? He is audacious in what he is doing. I'm not saying that as praise. I'm saying that as nobody can quite wrap their brain around how to contend with him because he operates outside of the norms. But meanwhile, with this Don-roe Doctrine, he is kind of sending a message to the other dictators and strongmen of the world. Might makes right. Stephen Miller said the other day in an interview on CNN, who's going to stop us? Who gives a crap about if we go and take Greenland? Who's going to stop us? He says. That's a good question, because right now it doesn't look like anybody is equipped to answer that question. The answer should be the whole entire international community. If he were to do that, and they haven't ruled out military force in Greenland, which is absurd, that as I say that sentence, it sounds bizarre to even ponder the fact that we, the United States, can just, in the 21st century, just start up the old imperialism engine all over again and start claiming shit that isn't ours. But we're also sending a message to Putin. By the way, if you want Ukraine, it's all yours. That's pretty much what Trump has been saying anyway. He refuses to offer any material help to Ukraine. When time comes to offer up solutions on how to end the war, his offerings always favor Russia, what Russia wants and what Russia needs. And there's never any concessions. Russia never has to make any concessions because Donald Trump is doing exactly what Putin wants him to do. And what about President Xi in Taiwan? Who's going to stop him now? We can't, because we no longer have the moral high ground. Republican Senator John Kennedy says military action on Greenland would be weapons grade stupid as GOP resists force. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe. It's one thing for a senator to mention on an aside, this is off the record or whatever, to a reporter. It's another thing to step to the mic, to step to the podium and cast your vote to stop this wannabe dictator. Right now, the half of the Congress is AWOL. They refuse to step up and do their duty and act as a check and balance against this out of control president. And that's because, as I said earlier, they can't really wrap their brains around what this guy is doing because everything he is doing is unprecedented. This was my Substack for this week. It's titled, Trump Isn't Hiding His Next Move. We're just not prepared to stop it. He doesn't break rules by accident. He invents fraud to justify breaking them on purpose. You could look at that as false flag if you want. Donald Trump loves a false flag, creating a false precedent, for attack, for plunder, or for whatever. Whether it's Doge walking into a department and saying, fraud, this fraud. You've been in there 2 fucking seconds. And you're declaring fraud left and right. Instead of taking like a magnifying glass, a microscope, and really looking into seeing, no, you're just declaring fraud. And we're just going to cut. Instead of using a laser with pinpoint precision, you're using a machete. One of the most persistent failures of our institutions is the assumption that Trump behaves like a normal political actor. He does not. He never has. He does not stumble into abuses of power. He does not accidentally overreach. He manufactures justification. Fraud, crime, disorder, terrorism, invasion. These are not discoveries for Trump. They are tools. He invokes them when he wants permission to break rules, shatter norms, or seize authority with minimal resistance. Fraud is his skeleton key. It opens every locked door. The moment that should have jolted every serious person awake came when Trump casually acknowledged during an Air Force One interview after the Venezuela invasion that he was pulling the National Guard out of several cities while explicitly reserving the right to bring them back, quote unquote, when the time is right, because as he put it, the crimes will start again. Read that again. Crimes will start again. Not if, not maybe, when. That is not a warning. It is narrative conditioning. So he said that, I think, just this past weekend. He was on Air Force One, and the National Guard, just so you know, he wasn't withdrawing the National Guard out of the magnanimousness of his heart. You know, he had a he had a moment of revelation where he's like, oh, this is wrong. No, it's not that at all. It's the courts said you have to remove the National Guard. So he's like, yeah, okay, we're going to take them out, but when the crimes start again, we're going to bring them back. So just so you know, guys, this putting the National Guard into cities to crime is stupid because it's not sustainable. Yeah, sure. You put a bunch of people into certain neighborhoods that are wearing all the military gear and they have their rifles or whatever, their assault weapons. You're not going to carry out any muggings on that street while Army Joe is standing there with his gun, right? You're not going to do it. But when they leave, maybe you start up again, right? That's kind of how it works. So it's like a false, it's false. It's fake. It's fraud. It's not really stopping crime. He's just postponing it. He's giving the illusion of crime dropping. He's manufacturing justification. So he also mentioned in that same Air Force One interview that he can use the Insurrection Act. He talked about George H.W. Bush, the father. He said George H.W. Bush, he wrongly said that George H.W. Bush invoked the Insurrection Act 30 times. That's a lie. That is a lie. The most times any United States president has invoked the Insurrection Act was 6 times. George H.W. Bush invoked it for the LA riots. As you know, that was a result of the Rodney King verdict. And I think overall, the Insurrection Act has been invoked 37 times, but not really, aside from Bush, not a whole lot since then. But why am I bringing up the Insurrection Act? Because, and why am I talking about manufacturing permission? Because there's an incident in Minnesota, in Minneapolis today, in which a woman was shot and murdered. And and he would love nothing more than for a riot to break out, for mayhem, for destruction, so that he has a reason, he has a pretext to send the troops in. My belief is that he is going to do it relatively close to when the midterm elections start. Because right now, the Republican Party is a burning, raging dumpster fire. They are poised to lose more seats than probably any other political party in modern history. They're doing so poorly. That's why there's a bunch of people who aren't even running, a bunch of Republicans, not even running for re-election because they know they are doomed. Because Donald Trump has been a disaster for our economy, His tariffs are a complete disaster. And unless the Supreme Court bails him out and says, you have to stop with these tariffs, and that, believe me, that would be a complete bailout because he is so stupid and stubborn. He will run us into the ground with his tariffs. So, yeah, barring a miracle, the Republican Party is poised to lose the House bigly. And he just announced the other day, he said, we can't lose the midterms because if we do, the Democrats will impeach me. There he goes, threatening us with a good time. And he's damn right. We will impeach him. And we don't have to manufacture a reason for that. Joanne Kennedy pointing out healthcare too. How can I forget healthcare? My wife is going for surgery this Friday. Say a prayer for her, please. Yes, healthcare is always a concern for me and my family. When my son was hit by a bicycle about 5 years ago, he was struck by a vehicle while he was riding his bike. We got to the scene. He's in an ambulance right there. That ambulance is like it's like $1,200. You know, without insurance, we would have been screwed. We would have been screwed. So, yeah, I don't know what we and the rest of the American families are going to do if Congress does not come to their senses and vote to extend the subsidies. They're supposed to vote tomorrow, folks, just so you know. So if you get a chance, call your senators, call your representatives, get them on the phone and say, you better vote for this because we're not having it. You better vote for it. I cannot afford to not have my family insured. Call them. I want to post this tweet from Ron Filipkowski, who, by the way, frequently posts excellent content on Twitter. Ron posted here on October 12th, 2025, he wrote, the people who want violent protests to happen are Trump, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, Tom Homan, and other senior appointees in his administration. They're doing everything they possibly can do to provoke people to violence. And it is obvious that that is what they hope for daily. They created pretext with Venezuela. They're hoping to create pretext in Minneapolis and other places. And guys, you got to keep your eyes open for this. You know, stop looking at the news as this is what's actually happening. Look at the news as, what are they trying to hide from us? What's the real story that we are being distracted from? Is it the Epstein files? Is it this disastrous economy? Is something else happening? You know, but all I know that there are a lot of distractions and there aren't enough answers. We're all taxpayers. Us, when I say us, I mean Democrats, I mean Republicans and independents. You guys also deserve answers. When I say you guys also, I'm talking to you, Republicans, MAGA, independents, etc. Anybody who's paying taxes right now deserves some answers, some transparency, and we're not getting enough of that. We're getting a lot of shenanigans. We're getting a lot of distractions. We're getting a lot of lies. And it's bullshit. And all Donald Trump is doing is laughing all the way to the bank. He's stuffing his pockets with every dime, every penny he possibly can. He's going to turn himself into an oil baron and be billions and billions and billions rich by the time his term ends. And not a penny for the American people. So, folks, do you have any questions for me? Let's hear it. By the way, next week, God willing, I'm hoping to turn Storytime with BDD into the Defiant Weekly. So this actually, I believe, is going to be, barring any, delays or technical difficulties, this will be the final episode of Storytime with BDD. How are the kittens? Lisa Hathaway wants to know how the kittens are adorable. They are crazy. I love them very much. I hate to say it because they gotta go. We don't have room for them. We have room because we've committed to see them through their first 6 to 8 weeks of life, right? And then what's going to happen is we're going to bring them to the vet. We're going to get them their shots, and then we're going to give them away to family and friends who said, "Yeah, we'll take a kitten." But they are so adorable. And Goose was the one who was having trouble growing. Goose is fine. Goose is totally fine right now. Trump Reaper wants to know, is it possible for Americans in all states to file a class action suit against Trump and his pet billionaires? That's a great question, Trump Reaper. You often have a lot of these really good questions. I would assume yes. I don't see why not. I don't think there's any rule that says that, you cannot file a class action lawsuit against a sitting president, right? Because that would go to civil court, unless I'm mistaken. I don't know. But yeah. And Bernadette says, sorry to see Storytime go. Yeah, it's time. It hasn't really been, if you think about it, guys, when I started doing Storytime, 5 years ago? Shit, it was 6 years ago when I published The Littlest President. And the whole purpose of it back then was to read excerpts from The Littlest President, and B, was to offer a distraction. Remember? A distraction from Trump's idiotic COVID press briefings, which were daily at that point. It was like March or April of 2020. He was having daily COVID press briefings, and they were stupid. And I was like, you know what? It'd be cool if we could have a distraction from that. And so I was offering the distraction, and so that was fun. That was daily. Can you guys believe I was doing this show daily, and it was on my phone at that point? It was very, very low tech show. And a lot of us, Bernadette was there with me. The Trump Reaper was there with me. A bunch of you guys were there with me from the very beginning. And I really appreciate you guys sticking with me. And I swear I am not going to get emotional on this, but I feel it right here. Love you guys. So Periscope. That's right. Holy cow. That's where I was doing the show. It is so funny. I totally forgot. Yeah, it wasn't Periscope. Monique Lee, you were there with me too. There definitely got me through the pandemic. That's right. Samantha Hawkins, a Periscope baby here. Yeah, you guys. So yeah, I've stopped reading the book, the books. It was fun, but yeah, now we are more dealing with what's happened in the past week and how do we process it. And I think a show like this is important because it feels like a lot that we're being hit with on a weekly basis. It's always something like this. It's never a boring week. It's always like, holy shit, there was a mass shooting here. There was a shooting over here. We've invaded another country. We're thinking about invading another country, healthcare, you name it. It's a crisis every other day. So it's a lot to process. And so it's cool to be able to have a place where you can come and kind of make sense with it. And we have our own community here. We have folks who have been hanging out this whole day. We have these DM rooms where everybody, shares pictures of their grandkids and their children and stuff like that. It's wonderful. And I am so proud that that I helped create this community. Yeah, Eddie G says we listen to you instead of Trump's COVID lies. That's right. Lisa Hathaway was there too. Indeed. So, guys, yeah, thank you so much for hanging in there with me. I intend to keep the same level of quality going and actually increase it. You can believe that. Yeah. So anyway, tell your friends, the Defiant Weekly will be here Wednesday evenings at 6:30 p.m. until further notice. And I love you guys so much. And thank you for your support. I look forward to seeing you guys here next week, same time. I love you all. Peace.